Hi everyone, welcome to the second episode of Let's Take This Offline podcast. I'm Kushal, this is Nimisha.
Hey.
And so, Nimisha, what are we going to talk about today?
Awesome. So I'm really excited for today's episode. We're going to talk about, you all can easily guess it, artificial intelligence,
Wow.
aka AI.
So, doing clickbaity stuff.
Absolutely.
Wow.
So we're talking about AI yesterday, today, and tomorrow.
Awesome. So,
Yeah.
Nimisha, you are the self proclaimed data science expert among us.
I'm really not.
So, why don't you start about, where did AI start? And
Yeah. Okay. So I feel like, us in this age group, which is not very large, by the way, um, we've lived through some amazing moments in the past 2 decades, okay, in terms of a lot of advancements in just data and ML and AI and all of that. And there's been some sort of a hockey stick kind of a development just in the past couple of years. But I would like to go all the way back to like 1950s,
Mhm.
if you think about the birth of AI. We've all studied this in computer science. I'm assuming whoever's listening is aware of this, but there's a scientist called Alan Turing back in the 1950s, and he came up with this test called the Turing test. TLDR on the test is that he literally has a computer and a person take the same test, like a quiz, and if the computer is able to guess 50% or more of what the human is guessing, then it's considered to be artificially intelligent.
Mhm.
So this is, as if you think about it, back in the day, they just thought that computers were really dumb and they were trying to beat humans. Cut to now, we can barely keep up with computers. So, yeah, that's kind of how artificial intelligence was coined. And the next couple of decades, there was a lot of quiet research going on, I think. Like, Peter Norvig or John McCarthy, all these like famous names which we've seen in our textbooks. They've written tons and tons of research papers about neural networks and backpropagation, all of those things. But no one was really able to adopt what they had done because there was no concept of computer or really like PC
Mhm.
back in the day. So it was really when IBM, which was a huge like tech giant, I mean it still is, of course, built something like a Deep Blue, I
Mhm.
think it was called,
Yeah.
which beat the chess championship.
Gary Kasparov.
That time, we know who's the trivia master here, Gary Kasparov at the time, and everyone's like, "What? Computers can do epic shit? What is happening?" So yeah, I think that's when people really realized that intelligence could be part of something which was non-living as well. So then it didn't stop at that. All of these really big companies started um, creating their own artificial intelligence agents, and I think it led to companies like Microsoft. Ultimately, when it was born, yeah, that was when the internet came,
Mhm.
and that's when we all had data and
Mhm.
we could actually train these models and artificial intelligence agents. So yeah, let me take a break and like kind
Yeah.
of ask you, what do you think? Like, what do you think happened in AI
But
during that
one
time?
comment, like, I wish I had read my textbooks. I have no clue about like the Peter Norvig or like the other
Yeah,
scientists. Maybe I should have studied more.
I'm
Uh,
sure you've read the textbooks. Like,
yeah,
don't remember who wrote it, probably.
well, that's debatable. But yeah, looking at, just to add to that, all the technical waves have just added on top of each other. So let's start. I mean, the whole Silicon Valley started with semiconductors. So companies like Intel, Fairchild. Then personal computers will be built on top of that. So we had companies like Apple, Microsoft at that time. Then we had networks connecting those personal computers. So we had companies like Cisco, which started around that time. Then we had applications on top of those personal computers. We had companies like Adobe that started. Then came the era of internet. So then we had companies like Google and Yahoo.
Yep.
Then came the e-commerce layer. Then we had companies like Amazon. So so far, all the technical waves have just built on top of each other. And as we as the internet era grew or the e-commerce era grew, then we had the mobile era. Then we had companies like Uber, Airbnb, and other companies coming up. At the same time, there were a lot of advancements being made in the AI space, in terms of hardware, in terms of applications. So Nimisha, what all happened?
Yeah, so much was happening at the time. I think this was around, say, early 2010s, right? I think I was just about to start my computer science education. I think so were you. I remember data mining and big data being a very, those were the buzzwords of
Yeah.
our day. Um, Everybody, all of us, definitely mined tweets
Yep.
and did some sort of sentiment analysis on it. I remember building a ton of Android apps for, I don't know, like any API, right, which gave us free data. We would get that data and do some sort of analysis on it. I think it was also because at that time GitHub became, I mean, it was always available. It just became really popular,
Yeah.
and democratized the whole concept of just code being available. So suddenly, all the code that was written by anybody who is anybody, we could use it. It was awesome. I remember just training models for hours and hours and days actually on a very simple like PC that I had on like a CPU, which was considered very great back at
Mm-hmm.
the time. I think during this time there was like a silent parallel processing thread which was happening, totally pun intended, um, by these hardware companies, which are essentially Nvidia, Intel, AMD, all of these
Mm-hmm.
folks. So they started off as companies who were supporting high computation tasks, which were just gaming at the time, actually, a few decades ago. But with the advent of artificial intelligence or machine learning, suddenly matrix computations were everywhere. So they started creating GPUs, tensor cores, and before you know it, um, Google started giving us Colab
Mm-hmm.
notebooks where we could utilize TPUs for training models and inferencing pre-trained models. It was awesome. So I think at this point, right, these companies like Microsoft, Amazon, Google, all of these folks realized that yes, they can capitalize on this machine learning or AI wave by building the first set of B2B AI
Mm-hmm.
products. But really, what value they can add is by giving us the tools to build models ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So they created TensorFlow and PyTorch. So I think that was an exciting time when tons of data was available. Algorithms were in abundance,
Mm-hmm.
and by algorithms I mean like natural language processing algos, computer vision
Yeah.
algos, all of that. People were getting a taste of what you can actually do with an ML model, and hardware was also advancing at an alarming rate.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the mesh of all these three gave rise to an amazing company, which you can talk about. I don't
Yeah.
even have to give you a hint about what that is.
So we are talking about this company called OpenAI, as we all know. So OpenAI was started by a few tech visionaries. We had Sam Altman, we had Elon Musk was also part of that board. It was funded by Microsoft, Infosys, and a few big tech companies. The idea was to make everything open source and to democratize AI. That's why the company
Yep.
was called OpenAI. And it started with the advent of, I mean, one of the first things that the company developed was a GPT model. So the idea was not that a model could just predict stuff. A model could uh, help you whether the sentiment was positive, negative. A model could now interact with you. A model could generate data. You could ask 1 plus 1. The model could say 2. That was fascinating.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's how
Of all the examples that Kushal could give,
it
he
is.
said one
It's.
plus one
I
is two.
saw a nice video, a really funny video, on how someone gaslighted OpenAI to convince that 1 plus 1 is actually 3. So something like that.
These are the users that
Yeah,
I add test cases for every day. This is my job, you guys. Oh my god.
yeah. You know,
People like Kushal try to break the models we put in production.
sometimes wonder, if we are relying so much on AI, there are always this rogue elements. What's
Yeah.
going to happen, if we rely on these
That's
rogue
definitely
elements?
something we'll touch upon in the future of AI.
Yep, of course. So yeah, I mean, like at that point in time, then GPT also started doing multi-model inferencing. So text to text, text to video, uh, and so that brings this question about what next. So we have all these technical waves that are built on top of each other.
Yeah.
So what is going to happen next? So Nimisha, what do you foresee, or yeah, the innovations
Yeah.
in the space of
Wow, there's so much to say about this topic. I feel like we should divide it into multiple paradigms, right? First one is, as we know, AI is made up of, I feel like I've said this 10 times, data, computation, and hardware. So we should think about how things will change in all these three, and of course, talk about other effects as well. So what I think will happen is that on the hardware side, um, the requirement for computation will only increase, right? So, fun fact actually, NVIDIA actually gifted a supercomputer to OpenAI for their initial explorations and stuff. So that I thought it was pretty cool. In this, cutthroat competitive rival world, there are still very cute things like this that happen, like friendships which are formed.
Does NVIDIA
Um,
have a stake in OpenAI?
I'm actually not sure.
Okay.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, anyway, so on the hardware side, I feel like quantum computing is something that I foresee. I don't know if supercomputing will have, be as democratized in 10 years, but the usage or the need for it will be very high. I do feel that because of tons and tons of apps on handheld devices like mobiles and tablets, edge computing will be a thing. What I mean by that is, instead of hosting a model on the cloud and using that as an endpoint to inference, you would actually host the model on your device itself. Um, so you really, there would be a need for lightweight models going ahead. So I feel like NVIDIA, Intel, AMD, they are only getting started. There'll be there'll be a lot of small companies that I foresee growing around NVIDIA and all these tech giants as folks who would fill the gap between core hardware and the folks like DeepMind who are producing core software and stuff. So that's what's going to happen on the hardware side, in my opinion. On the data side, I think there's just going to be tons and tons of data being generated, especially because of generative AI models, not just on the text side, but also on the image and video side. Tons of deep fakes are going to be there. There is going to be a need for some sort of governance. I think we are already seeing cases where Scarlett Johansson's voice is being used in without her consent and stuff like that. So it's already begun. I think it can be really dangerous. So I foresee some sort of regulatory committees that should be made in every country, if not every city or every in every sector. That's what's going to happen on the data side. And I think on the just algorithm side, I feel like the next 5 years will be all about adoption. Like people don't really need to make smarter models, at least in some industries which are not early adopters. Like if you think of hospitals, or if you think of I don't know, governments or lawmakers, the path to adopt any existing AI technology itself is so full of friction. So for those areas, I don't think they need smarter models. I think they need to just understand where they can actually apply um, ML or AI to make things quicker and more efficient. So automation will be key in those markets or industries. But other places where AI is already prevalent, I think the war will continue. Like Microsoft, Google, Meta, Amazon, all these folks will come up with smarter and smarter models which will beat benchmark data sets, and they will release research papers, and I'm here to see all of it. I can't wait. So this is what I foresee.
Makes sense. In the soft, I mean, I don't have a lot of foresight into the hardware world, but in the software world, what I foresee is there's a few set of companies like OpenAI which have built foundational models. So using really large data to build models. On top of those models, a few applications are being developed, etc. So in foundational models, you need a lot of computation power. You need a lot of data. So there's going to be a few leaders there. Of course, OpenAI is one. There's Meta. There's Google doing their own stuff. There's this foundational model company in India called Sarvam, uh, which has built a foundational model using Indic language data, and that's also proprietary data. So what's going to happen now is there's going to be a set of companies which are going to be building applications on top of these foundational model companies. So using APIs, etc. So there's a set of companies that's building wrappers on top of GPT, which are called wrapper companies. And then people always question, whether in the next version of GPT, whether these companies will cease to exist or not. And there's going to be companies which are solving really specific problems. So there's this company called Nvidia. What it does is that you must have memorized it by now what the company does, but because of the technical glitches. But what
This is take 5.
yeah, exactly. So what it does is basically it creates videos using prompts. It edits your videos in real time. You don't need a video editor anymore.
We're totally using that
Yeah.
for the next run.
Exactly. So, so basically, I mean, there's companies which are solving problems which were not possible before the advent of LLMs. There's going to be a set of companies solving really specific B2B SaaS problems. There's going to be a new set of service provider companies as well. So we'll see a new set of Infosys 2.0,
Yeah.
which is doing something using LLMs. So with the advent of a new technology, there's going to be a lot of disruption as well. So Nimisha, what sort of disruption do you see?
Yeah, as somebody who has kind of experienced a recent layoff, I feel like jobs is on top of
Yeah.
mind for not just me, a lot of people. Yeah, so I think a lot of jobs will get automated, but also not everyone has to kind of be worried. I think the jobs that will get automated are the ones which should have gotten automated. It's like Thanos, it's inevitable. So if, it's something like very administrative, like booking appointments, or something like searching or planning or creating an itinerary, for example, for travel, those kind of things will get automated because you would rather do something else rather than spend your bandwidth on that. I can also talk about how, as a product manager, I read articles every day about people worrying that even software engineers are worried that they're gonna lose their jobs to ChatGPT or something. Um, I think that, again, the same kind of thing applies. Currently, I am using a lot of AI in my life as a PM to make me a better PM. So I use bots to schedule meetings. I use ChatGPT to help me write PRDs. I do definitely use ChatGPT for understanding what is happening in my industry so that I'm on top of things. I have tried to automate every possible thing that I can automate so that I can record podcasts with you, Kushal, along with doing my job. So, yeah, I think that functions of jobs would get automated, but if you are someone who still has value in their organization in terms of, say, having a vision or alignment, or yeah, I think you should be okay. But definitely, I think educating yourself about what AI is, what is a model, what does training mean, what does inference mean, what does automation even mean, would really help. Um, I think I foresee some sort of an AI expert residing in every industry going ahead. Like every hospital probably, will have one resident medical AI expert who will explain what even the outputs and inputs to these models are to someone like a doctor. So I foresee those kind of jobs coming up. I also see a lot of degree programs coming up in terms of educating people around what AI is and the applications of AI.
There's going to be prompt engineers, a new field.
Totally, prompt engineer. How do you even use the models in the right way and give the right prompts to get things done? We're already seeing a taste of it in, I think, content creator world, where your your favorite TikTok and Reels, Instagram content creators are probably using prompt engineering to come up with an idea for their next reel, which is phenomenal, according to me. Like they don't have to worry about the next 1 year of content. They can get ideas.
As I was searching for like editing softwares for the podcast, I came across something where you give a podcast, it's going to figure out what is the most viral clip,
Yeah,
and then you just like put it out on social media. So
that'd be great.
Yeah.
Honestly, if you find that for us, that'd be great. We need some training data though. So
Exactly.
yeah, yeah. So kids, learn your AI. Okay, know what is gonna get automated. Get a job where you have stuff to do beyond weird automative tasks, and yeah, you'll be good.
Will be sad if like to train an AI model, there's like going to be 100 people in India trying to label data, and
all right,
would be
all
sad.
right. We're not going into
Yeah.
murky waters here.
Yeah.
But also, I think it's going to be fun. Like, I mean, to be honest, like, I actually lost a family member to cancer when I was a kid. So, if cancer detection models become great with AI, that would be awesome. So, I'm really looking forward to what happens in the medical field, as well as the entertainment field. I mean, bring back Michael Jackson videos. That'd be great. Oh, he's like, I totally don't relate to that. But yeah, that's.
I mean, it's debatable whether I would want my
Mm.
dead stars to come back again.
Wow. Next topic. We
Yeah.
don't even need ChatGPT. We have Kushal. So
Exactly.
yeah. I
Yeah.
think that's it for this episode, folks. Thank you for tuning in. But yeah, I think if we have more things to discuss with us, just leave us some comments and we'll take it offline.
Thank you.
Thanks.